So welcome to the Data Science Hangout. A little different today in that I'm hosting, not Rachel. Rachel is on a train right now down to the Philadelphia area. But this is the Data Science Hangout. We host it every Thursday at noon, same time, same place. There are a few ways to participate in the Hangout. It's meant to be super casual, open conversation, questions about data science. You can participate just by typing into the chat. We obviously encourage that. Raise your hand and hop in live and ask a question. And then there's also a way to submit questions anonymously via a Slido link that my colleague Hannah will provide. So do whatever you feel comfortable with. Have your video on, video off, whatever you feel comfortable with. We'd love to hear from as many people as we can, but I'm super pumped to introduce our featured leader today, JD Williams from Zoetis. And I'll hand it over to you, JD, if you want to introduce yourself.
Great, thank you. Welcome, everyone. Glad to see you all here. I was scheduled to be here, I think it was 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, I can't remember what it was, and I got COVID. And you would not want me to have been here on the call at that time. It's actually my third infection of COVID in the past 3 years. I do not recommend any more than one or any infection of COVID. But glad to be recovered. A little bit of a groggy voice, kind of still hanging out after this time, but hopefully you can hear me okay. Really excited to be here. So I have a slide that I've used to introduce myself, and that other team members on my team have used to introduce themselves as well. I'll pull that up as a way to get started here. Okay, this is me. So just a little bit about me and my background. I grew up in the Rocky Mountain West, so this is the area of Colorado, Idaho, Oregon, Utah. So I love the mountains, and so I live now in flat old Indianapolis, Indiana. So I'm a little bit depressed about the terrain or the lack thereof, but love this location. Great people, great community, great schools. So I live here, and I'll give a little bit about that journey. So coming from that background, I went to Brigham Young University in Provo, Utah for my undergraduate degree, which was in mathematics education. My original plan was to be a high school math teacher. And then through the course of some events, I ended up getting into statistics, the master's program there at BYU in the statistics program, and absolutely loved it. And then took that opportunity to then go on to do a PhD in statistics, and that was at Virginia Tech in Blacksburg, Virginia. So hopefully there's some Hokies or some Cougars out there. If you are, give a thumbs up for those alumni. The stats program at Virginia Tech is the third oldest statistics program in the country, and so it has a really long history. And the area of my dissertation research was in the area of multivariable statistical process control, which comes actually full circle. I'll talk a little bit about some work that we're doing in the area of manufacturing and using Posit to help us there as well. So a little bit around the work experience journey. After graduating with my PhD, started to work at GE, General Electric, in their research headquarters. This was in upstate New York, and really loved it there. GE at the time owned a little bit of everything. And so you think about, GE, it's not just kind of light bulbs and dishwashers and things like that, but they used to have this large capital financial business. So we would lean loans and leases of all kinds of equipment. So that's where I got into the area of financial services, and that led to a role with JP Morgan Chase in their analytics headquarters, and that was actually in Columbus, Ohio. So moved the family to Ohio and was there for a couple years, and that's where I really learned the concept of big data. And by the way, this is like 2010 kind of time frame. Big data and just really using vast amounts of data to make decision making. And the banking, the financial industry, I feel like has been kind of well ahead in the analytics curve. For example, at JP Morgan Chase, I never heard of anything in terms of an analytics project. It was just the way things were. It was part of the DNA of the company. Whereas when I took my next role at Dow AgroSciences, it was I was asked to come and start up a brand new business analytics team. So I went and hired a small team, and really we were just starting from scratch and trying to get analytics use cases going. And it was everything was in terms of project and use cases and just trying to get momentum and get buy-in from various stakeholders. Whereas where I come from a place where there was no major decision made unless the analytics team signed off on it, and it was such a integral part of how decisions were made. So it's quite a learning experience, and to go to a place where we had to sort of prove ourselves. And so the Dow AgroSciences role took me and my family here to Indianapolis, Indiana. Now, Dow AgroSciences doesn't exist, so Dow and DuPont merged to become Corteva, and that happened. That was happening, while I was there. Had a really great experience with Dow, and then here in Indianapolis is the headquarters for Eli Lilly, and I had the opportunity to come into Lilly and basically take an advanced analytics team of PhDs in statistics and operations research, etc., and grow that team and expand it across the globe, to be not just U.S. centered, but also Japan, China, Europe, etc., and as well as expand our different types of work we're doing within the U.S. So really great opportunity to work and learn in a highly regulated space of how analytics can make a difference. And then 2 years ago, this is during the pandemic, so February of 2021, I had the opportunity to come here at Zoetis with just an amazing opportunity to basically create and lead a brand new business insights and analytics team. And so I was given like a blank sheet of paper to draw out the organizational design, write the job descriptions, and go and hire the team to accomplish the vision of leading in digital and data analytics, which is one of the company priorities that's been publicly stated. And just recently, that priority was reworded slightly to be now we're going to power the business through digital and data analytics capabilities. So really, really happy about that. So I'll come back and talk a little bit more about the team, but kind of finishing the story here. On the personal side, my wife and I have 5 kids. You can see our picture there. Our oldest is going to get married this summer. Very expensive, I know. So just prepare for any of you parents out there have kids in that, getting ready to get married stage. Start saving now, especially if you have daughters. Okay. So anyway, we're in that phase right now. And I also, for fun, I've competed in things like, Ironman triathlons. I've completed 6 of those. I've qualified for and competed in the Boston Marathon as well. That was an amazing experience. It took me more than 10 years of effort to actually go and qualify to be able to run in the Boston, which is a whole story in and of itself of how I use data and analytics to help me get there, which is so cool. So maybe if we have time later on, we can talk about how data analytics helped me to facilitate improving to get to where I could qualify for Boston. And back in college, this is when I was at BYU as an undergrad. I was a former competitive ballroom dancer. You can see from that picture there. I was having way too much fun, as you can tell, as an undergrad on the ballroom dance team. And also, when I was between my freshman and sophomore years of college, I took a 2-year leave of absence to serve a mission for my church. And in these types of situations, we are not, we don't get to choose where we go or what language we speak. And I was asked to go to Argentina, so live there for 2 years and learn to speak Spanish. Entonces, si algunas personas si hablan español, podemos hablar español después. So I learned a little bit of Spanish there and try to keep it up a little bit every day. So that's a little bit about me and my background, and to kind of go through the team a little bit. So, but before I jump into that, any questions that pop up, I'm going to talk through kind of the genesis of the team and kind of org structure and how we work. Any questions? I can't tell.
There is an anonymous question that I think is exactly what you're talking about. The question is, how do you go about building a data science team from scratch?
Great question. So that's exactly what we had to do here.
Wasn't planned.
Yeah. So I've had to do this twice now. This is the second time. The first time was when I was brought into Dow AgroSciences. That was a much smaller team, smaller scope. That was just for the commercial kind of scope. In this case, Zoetis is just a little bit of background on the company. Zoetis is the largest animal health company in the world. So it's an $8 billion company with 13,000 or so employees globally. So if any of you have dogs or cats, then very likely there's a chance that your dogs or cats are being prescribed Zoetis medications from your veterinarian, or any of you are associated with livestock farming. So cattle, beef or dairy cattle, pigs, chickens, sheep, and even salmon. So fish farming as well. We have products to help to serve those animals. And so a little bit about the company, and it's really great to be in this place where we really our mission is to help improve the world by improving the health of animals, those that are companion animals as well as those that are used to help feed the world. And so in 2020, we had a new CEO, Kristen Peck, that took the helm. And one of the first changes she does was to bring in a new chief information officer, who was Wafa Mamili. And I had known and worked with Wafa at Eli Lilly previously. And she is just an absolutely spectacular leader. You can go and Google Wafa Mamili afterwards and read it all about all the words and the great leader that she is, as well as Kristen. So Wafa came in and completely took a new direction into the company to be technology and digital focused. And that's where the priority of leading in digital and data analytics came about. And that was really the foundation of why my team was created and funding it. So not just words. We don't say, hey, we by words we're supporting you, but actually by dollars and resources. And so I was brought in along with others to build this business insights and analytics team. And so one of my first responsibilities was to understand what the business needs are, and to understand how we can play a role in that. And when I came in, I realized that there were some data scientists and pockets of data science throughout the company, mainly in our US commercial, which is our major commercial unit, as well as in our R&D group. There were data science, statisticians, et cetera, in those areas. And so we didn't want to focus on those areas at first, because we knew there was already ongoing work there and support. And so what we did was design the organization to be one where we had dedicated focus of data analysts. So those that are not necessarily have masters and PhDs in data science, but have bachelor's or so forth degrees in data analytics type of degree areas, that we can focus in particular areas. And then I designed a pool of data scientists that could then be deployed across any of the use cases, and could be very flexible kind of a pool there. And so we focused a lot of our initial work in the area of manufacturing and supply chain, as well as our international commercial business, where there was very little or none in terms of data science support. And so they were immediately, there's so much pent up demand in these spaces that it didn't take long for us to generate momentum in those areas. Then we also did things like with finance and HR, kind of other enabling functions, but we focused mainly on our manufacturing, supply chain, and our international commercial. And as we gain momentum, we've expanded now to more use cases within the US commercial, as well as in our R&D space. So in terms of designing the organization, I basically just designed to have an analytical lead, so an analytics lead. So an analytics lead I see as a person who's a translator between what are the needs of the business and what are the analytic solutions that can help to solve those needs. So someone that understands the analytics very well, but also understands the business problems and can do that translation. So I have analytics leads for each of those areas, and then data analysts that report to them, and this pool of data scientists that work across all of those verticals to serve the needs across each of those areas. So that's a little bit about the org design and what we came up with. And then it was just going about hiring the team, writing the job descriptions. I see, just kind of take a quick glance here, I see Catalina Moreno. I'm going to call her out. She is one of our top and excellent senior data scientists. So kudos to Catalina. What I'll talk about a little bit later are some of the really great work that she has helped to build. So really grateful to have you here. If there's other Zoetis data scientists that are on the call that I'm missing as I'm scanning through, I apologize for that. But so hiring the team was the next thing, and that took several months to do that. And one of the key factors for us was being able to be flexible in terms of location. I don't know how many of you are considered to be remote employees, but I was hired in during the pandemic and I was told, look, you're in Indianapolis, but we're a New Jersey based headquarters. We want you to be in New Jersey if you want to, but you don't have to. And so I said, well, I think we're going to stay here. And they're like, okay, great. So you're remote now. And so when I hired the team, it was always a remote option if they wanted to stay remote. Some of them wanted to be able to go into the office at times, but that was really the key, to be able to recruit people from all over the globe, actually. So not just in the U.S., but leave that flexibility for remote work. And so basically all of our meetings every day are virtual, which you know, there's a lot of pros. There's some cons to that. A lot of flexibility. We do miss that face-to-face interaction. And just as a side note, I was able to discover that there are about 10 or so Zoetis colleagues that live here in the Indianapolis area, and we get together once a month for lunch. And so that kind of gets that face-to-face interaction need taken care of. So I recommend that to anyone too. If you're working remote and there's colleagues that live in your area, you know, have a little chat that you have, and put that together and see if you can get together on a periodic basis just to, again, interact and meet new people. So that answers a little bit of the question of the org design and the build, and we just slowly, you know, built it up. Just kind of rough sizing, we're about 25, so not like super huge, but a very powerful and mighty team, very, very competent. Kalina and team here, they bring in a lot of experience from their previous roles or education, and are really making a big splash in the company. So one of the things that I want to just talk through is how we have helped to promote data science in the company. And so I don't know, a lot of you are probably you know leaders, or you're working in your companies trying to get momentum in terms of making data science and the power of data science be more prominent in the company. And so when I joined Zoetis, it was pretty early on. It's like within the first few months, you know, really noticing that, okay, there's some data science groups that exist, and we're bringing in a data science team. We don't want there to be confusion around, okay, why are there so many teams? Who's doing what? We wanted to be more united, be really a unified, you know, one Zoetis team of data scientists. So what we decided to do was to create this thing called the Zoetis Data Science Forum, where we would meet once a month and share, you know, success stories with each other, share use cases, share, you know, code and best practices. And so it started off with roughly about 50 or so people that would attend across all of these different data science areas. And we met, you know, for several months. We'd be sharing things, and it was great. And then you know, the attendance started to build up a little bit more and more, and then more and more non-data scientists started to come in and want to be interested in what was going on. And so it was at that point we realized, well, wait a minute, why don't we open up this to be much more accessible to anyone in the company, not just have really kind of technical kinds of topics, but talk more about the business value and what's the business impact, and have the data science in there as well, but have it be in a very easy to understand manner, and then have that be a way of promoting what the great data science work is, you know, across the company. So as we started to do that, more and more people started to comment and enjoy it. And then our CEO, Kristen Peck, got wind of what we were doing and wanted to come and join one of the meetings. And this was in September of last year, so nearly a year ago. And with her joining, the meeting attendance, you know, bumped up by 50%. And I'm going to show you a chart in just a minute to demonstrate that. And afterwards, she was just so thrilled with how the meeting went. She learned so much and wanted to continue to attend those meetings, that she told her administrative assistant that I want you to put this meeting on my calendar every single month, and I will try to come to as many as possible. And I can tell you that in the past, I think 9 or so months, she's been there about 6 of the past 9 times. Our CEO personally attending the Zoetis Data Science Forum. And she has become one of our greatest proponents. In fact, in our town hall just 2 weeks ago, she talked about actually it was last week, she talked about the Zoetis Data Science Forum in the global town hall, and how this is something that you should all go to and participate in. And by the way, over time, we've built up now where there's 300 participants. And she's like, all right, JD's goal is to get 400. So I want everyone to go to the Zoetis Data Science Forum and participate. So that's been a tremendous help to have such senior leaders that are supportive of these types of things. And I go back to building a data science team, promoting the things we do, and having the resources and the the advocacy that you really need to accelerate as a data science organization. Having the CEO and your CIO, all those senior leaders be not just supportive, but just be strong advocates for what you do. There's really no replacement to that. It's incredible what you can do when you have that kind of senior level support. And we are so fortunate to have that at Zoetis. So let me pull this up. One of our data scientists who's in Ireland, Vincent Tennity, he normally joins this call. I think he might be on vacation today. Let me see if I can share my screen. This is the app that he built.
And JD, can I dig into what you said a little bit about the CEO, right? So Zoetis is a big company, not sort of like a 5-person startup.
13,000 employees worldwide. That's right.
Yeah, so getting the CEO on board is no small feat. What are some tips and recommendations you can give to people to form that kind of relationship?
I take no credit whatsoever. It's completely her. Kristen Peck is just an A+ CEO. She is just, you can see her on CNN, anyway, see her all over the news. Honestly, so one of the things we have is what's called digital fluency. We were trying to raise the digital, understanding, advocacy, usage of digital technologies in all its forms. And so we have this initiative called Digital Fluency, and our CEO is taking that completely serious to the fact where she said, okay, I want to learn how to code an app. And so our CEO, who's as busy as she is, got some of our leaders who are, coders and can help her to mentor her how to code an app. And she did it. She taught her kids how to do it. And so, so she learned how to code an app. And then when it comes to these data science topics, she's personally told me that she considers herself a student trying to learn. And so I wish I had like some secret way of helping you help your CEOs to be more advocates of this. But to be honest, it's just Kristen Peck. It's all her. She's a super supportive.
There are a lot of anonymous questions. If we
okay. I'll pause and go there. Sure.
Yeah. Let's see. Can you share about some of the key projects you and your team are working on?
Yes. So, and to answer that, let me just finish the story on the data science forum. But real quick, go in here and let me share the screen, and I'll get to that because we use Posit in a lot of ways. Okay. So this is the app now. Some of you use Zoom, and we're using Zoom now. I didn't realize this until just a few months ago, that you can download the participant data of all those that attended your Zoom meetings. And so we downloaded, I think you can only get like a year's worth of history. I wish I'd have known this at the beginning. But anyway, so we downloaded all this data, and Vincent, in his whiz bang, our coding skills, was able to really quickly put this together and show what's the meeting progress over the past more than a year here. You can see what topic categories we've had. VMRD stands for veterinary medicine R&D. So we've had different top categories of topics. We've had over 800 unique attendees over the course of these many months, and you can see here in the past couple months we've had over 300 attendees. So there's 309 on that one, and then 331 in the one in April, and our CEO had attended both of those as well. So anyway, quick little visual, and then I won't click on this because it'll show actually employee names in here, but it also shows the attendees, so we can track who has attended, the most meetings, who has attended, the most number of minutes. So you don't just log in for 1 or 2 minutes, but you stay for the whole meeting, etc. And so that's what this shows there. Now, I will say that one of our top 3 attenders is Catalina Moreno, who's on the call right now. So kudos to Catalina. She has attended every single data science forum meeting since its beginning. So perfect attendance. Okay, so now going back to the question of some of our major projects. Excuse me, still getting over COVID here. I would say that where we use Posit the most is in the area of manufacturing. So when it comes to how you can make a real impact, whether it be reducing waste, whether it be finding defects, whether it be you're noticing trends in the manufacturing process that over time that are drifting in the wrong way, so you can make corrective action. All that requires quick and easy visual access to data, as well as the smart analytics to go on top of that to help you get alerts and to know when things are going the wrong way. And so one of the things that Catalina and other really brilliant data scientists on the team have done is they've used Posit as the base platform to build a continuous process verification tool, okay? And it actually has multiple facets to it. So there's different modules to help you go through the entire process of, okay, I have all this data that's been ingested. Now, how do I set control limits that make sense for this particular control metric of this product? So I'm measuring this whether it be percent dissolution or some kind of quality metric that happens at the end of the manufacturing process and that product in that site. So for that particular combination, what's the historical data look like and what are the control limits that I want to set? And there's all kinds of rules, all the the Shewhart control chart rules. What's it called? Something bell, electric bell. What was it, Kelly? Can't remember all the names of the 8 rules there you can select from. And so there's a module to then select the control chart limits, and that'll only be given to a few. The access will be given to a few of our manufacturing colleagues, because that's pretty powerful to be able to set those control limits. And then there's the more general module will be to have that continuous monitoring of those, and another module that allows you to go in and actually make annotations, so you can type in, okay, this particular data point is out of spec, here's the reason why, and so that gets tracked. Anyone can go back and see that of why it went out of control, and as well as things like email alerting. Okay, so your process is drifting out of control, it hit the control limit. Now you'll get an email alert right to your inbox, and so then you can quickly go and investigate. So this is something that hasn't been widely utilized throughout the company. There's definitely control charting in different sites, but not a universal tool that's been built to solve this control charting challenge across the board. And that's one of the benefits of the way that Catalina and team have designed the database, and that's to be scalable. And so it's not just a bespoke solution for just one of our major sites or two, but now the way the data comes in and the way they formatted it, we're able to take the solution and basically say, if your data is being loaded into SAP and so forth, or into our electronic batch record system, then you have it be able to be exposed to you. You can create control charts, etc. So for a couple dozen of our sites or so, we're able to do this type of work. We're in the process now of validating it and having some alpha users use it. So we haven't fully deployed it yet, and our goal is to then have it be GMP certified, so that we can make those types of GMP decisions based on that. But we've made quite a bit of progress in that space of doing a continuous process verification. So that's one. And the next one, I really should have Catalina talk about it, because she's the main data scientist that's been doing it. So Catalina, I don't know if you want to come off mute, or if you want to talk about the monoclonal antibody, but just kind of high level. I'll try to do it justice. And so one of our major products that we manufacture is a monoclonal antibody, and these are for different products for dogs or cats. One is Cytopoint, which is a product that is used for basically itching of dogs. The other one is for Librela and Solensia. Those are for osteoarthritis in dogs and cats, and these are monoclonal antibodies that need to be manufactured as part of those drug substances. and it's those of you that are involved in monoclonal antibody manufacturing, it's complex. There's a lot of variables. It's a difficult thing to really get your handle on. And so one of the things that Catalina and team have done is they have they have built a POSIT app that takes a lot of these real time, I'll call it real time, but very close to real time process data from the batches that are being actually scaled up and grown in our bioreactors to be on our cloud platform, which then can get loaded into POSIT and then presented back to the users as I'll call it near real time visuals of what's going on with the current batches, as well as some smart analytics. So we have another data scientist involved in this that's from our team in Austria, who built some algorithms to help detect when these very complex multivariable relationships show an out of control signal, and then send that signal to could be an email alert or just signal it on the actual chart itself. And this has been extremely valuable. For one, it's really hard for these shop floor engineers to be able to get access to data, because they might have to log into SAP, download a spreadsheet, or they might have to log into their MES system, download data to Excel, manually manipulate it, which is so cumbersome. Whereas now we have it all flowing automatically up into the cloud platform, which then can be easily and readily deployed through tools like POSIT to be able to build these visuals and the smart analytics on top of that to be able to make better decisions. So that's in the area of manufacturing. That's the area that we've actually just scratched the surface. So the monoclonal antibody manufacturing process has an upstream and a downstream process. We've only just tackled the upstream part of one of those three products. We want to do upstream and downstream across all three products and scale across multiple sites. So we've only done one site, upstream only, and of one product. So you can see we have a lot more we can scale and a lot more opportunity to increase the value of these tools housed in POSIT across our manufacturing network. So that's a little bit more coming. I can keep going. There's a whole lot more things, but Robert, is there any other questions I should tackle, or do you want me to keep going on more use cases?
Oh, there are a lot of questions. There is one that is asked in the chat by Ama. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. I don't know if you want to ask it live. I'll give you a few seconds, but if not, I can say. I'll assume that I'll ask it. Thanks for sharing your experience.
Hello. Okay.
Oh, come on in.
Yeah, thanks, and thanks for having me. I just want to go straight to the point without wasting anybody's time. I know I'm based here in the UK, in London, and I'm a student presently working on a startup. So with my co-founder, I was like surprised about because it's a tech-focused startup, and so I was like asking myself, USP, and how do you actually recommend setting up, let me say, a small practice. Like I don't access a practice with a team, but just getting the data practice in-house. I mean, with a small team, just basically three of us. Yeah, and so that's what I was like coming from, because you've worked with big companies. So I was like wondering in my situation, how do I go about that?
Yep, got it. And I can see the thank you for that question. I can see your questions here typed up in the chat. I did have a little bit of that experience when I did a kind of startup business analytics group earlier in my career at Dow AgroSciences. Basically, I came in and I was given the headcount to hire 3 people. So there were 4 of us. So a small and mighty team, really dedicated to help make a difference using data and analytics in our commercial space. And I learned a lot from that. I mean, I learned a lot from mistakes than actual successes. So let me tell you some of my mistakes, and then maybe that'll help guide you. And I've tried to learn from those mistakes as I've built this new team here at Zoetis. So one of our first mistakes was to try to tackle too many things at once. And so, part of it is like, okay, this is a really powerful capability. We want to make a big difference. So let's try to go as many places as we can. Now, there's some value to trying to, if you don't really know where the value is, you may kind of try to do quick proof of concepts in many places, and whatever one is successful, then you focus on that. But I think we just spent too much time trying to work on some inherited projects that we got instead of really trying to focus on where's the real biggest impact going to be. It took us about 2 years to get to the point where we're like, okay, we found an area that can really make a difference. And then by the 4th year, that's when things started to really happen for us. And that's when we narrowed our focus and we homed in, like put all of our efforts on just a couple things. We're a small team, we can only take on so much. Just focus on 1 or 2 things and just really do well at that. And you know, you hear this thing, this cliche about quick wins. Well, it's a real thing. Showing some progress along the way. You know, your senior leaders, they want to know that they're not just wasting their money by bringing on an expensive data science team that's going to just go off and do, you know, academic, you know, exercises. Excuse me, but are going to actually make a real difference. Sorry, still getting over the whole COVID here. And so again, my advice would be narrow in, focus on the highest value areas with maybe 2, one kind of shorter term, quick win, and one kind of longer term, according to the company priorities. Hope that helped. Next question.
There is a question from Sarang. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. Give you a second and ask it live if you'd like.
Sure. Hey, thanks for sharing your experience. It's been a really good session. My question was, what approach do you use to go from like proof of concepts to production ready apps, especially from security, data governance, and scaling perspective?
Yeah, good. So we created up front a 6-step process where we kind of went through each as sort of stage gates to get to, you know, all the way to, you know, value, you know, long-term value. And the first step is identification / prioritization. And so we had so for our manufacturing and supply chain leaders, we had a small steering committee of leaders and analytics leaders that came together and identified and prioritized the highest value use cases. And that was the first step. Once they identified those, then we did the second step, which is feasibility, where we took a little bit of time to gather the data, to look at the data available. Do we have enough data and the right kind of data to do a proof of concept? And if so, then we went to the next stage, which was proof of concept. And here's where we would build, you know, we're talking, the ideal would be between 2 and 4 weeks, quick proof of concept using the data we have sort of in a sandbox or offline. We're not building production ready code. We're not building, you know, something that's ready to go live. We're just trying to prove the value. So that's really the idea of a proof of concept. 2 things: can we do it, and does it have the value? Those are the 2 questions we're trying to answer with a proof of concept. And if the answer to both of those is yes, there's real business value and we were successfully able to do it, then we go to the 4th stage, which is the pilot. And that's where we would make it more production ready. Here's where we were going to, you know, partner with our data engineering team to take the analytics solution and put it into production on a small scale. And think of it as, you know, maybe 1 manufacturing site, 1 line, you know, kind of thing, where you're not scaling it across, you know, many different places, but being more deliberate in how you're doing it. And this is kind of a risk-based approach. And we were given permission to fail. A lot of the proof of concepts succeeded. There were some that did not. Some succeeded, but maybe didn't have as much value as we anticipated. They were good, but maybe not as high. And so focusing on those highest value proof of concepts, going on to the next stage of piloting. And then those pilots that are successful, for example, what I talked about, the monoclonal, you know, antibody is very successful. We want to scale that to other sites, other products, other stages of the process, and you know, leverage what we learned there and scale it across other areas. And so that's that scale up, you know, stage, which would be after the stage 5, the scale up after piloting. And then the last stage is, once we scale that up, is sustaining. So how do we sustain the value long term? And so those 6 stages are kind of how we thought about it up front. And as a team, we had the team size, but also some resources for partner support. So we had also some consulting, support to help us scale faster. And within the first year or so of us getting started, the total number of use cases in our use case tracker was about 100 in various of those 6 stages. Some were just ideas, some were being prioritized, some were in the feasibility step, some in the proof of concept, etc. So, but from there now we've taken the most high value of those, and we're actually focusing more on those and how we can pilot them and scale them. Hope that answered your question. And in a regulated environment, maybe that was a part of it. Honestly, we're a little less regulated than human health, is here in animal health, but we still have the regulations in terms of clinical trials, registrations. We have to do GMP, all those kinds of things on the manufacturing side as well.
If I may tack on to that question, in terms of your stack, do you only use R and POSIT, or do you have any other technologies that weave in to the broader analytics platform that you have?
Yeah. So we use a lot of tools. I would say we're trying to consolidate into one kind of workspace, but we're not dictating to every data scientist that you have to use this tool or have to use that language. We've got Python programmers, we've got R programmers that are very strong in both of those. POSIT's nice because it allows you to do either one of those. We also use Databricks as a way to use Spark and Python code or R code as well, but mainly Python. And a lot of the Azure tools are what we use as well. So we're an Azure shop. So.
Thanks.
Yep.
There's a question from Bill. Bill, are you still here? Suppose not. Can you talk about your relationship and work style and challenges with an IT and/or regulatory department?
Yeah, so technically we're within our IT organization, but we rebranded. So IT kind of has this connotation of network and laptops and all that stuff. So we're called Zoetis Tech and Digital, Technology and Digital. And because WAFA came in and restructured all that, it's been just a very vastly different culture and landscape than it was prior to her coming on and making those changes. So the work style is very collaborative and very supportive in terms of our analytics initiatives. We have support across the board. Everyone is aligned with that strategic priority, leading in digital and data analytics, or powering our business through digital and data analytics solutions. And so I would say that it's been great. Now, one of the challenges is sometimes, so we have business partners within IT or ZTD, Tech and Digital, that are pointed towards each of those areas. Now they're responsible for all of the technology and digital needs, so say for US commercial, just to pick one. Now, if we have a data science use case with US commercial, we just need to make sure that we're coordinating with those business partners within ZTD that are interfacing daily with their US commercial colleagues, and so that we're staying coordinated. That's really one of the challenges, is not going off kind of on our own, but really making sure that we're involving the right people.
So with all those various sources, have you standardized on certain data formats? Like you say, like we'll accept CSV files, JSON files, whatever.
Yeah, so within Azure is our data lake. We've created a data lake within Azure, and honestly, how the data engineers ingest it, I think it can come in many different formats. We land it into a raw zone, then from there it gets transformed, put into Parquet, into our governed zone, and from there it can be consumed among various downstream applications and consumers and data scientists, etc. So yeah, a lot of different ways. I think Javier has hand up. Javier, did you want to ask a question?
Hey, JD, thanks. This has been really interesting. I joined late, but I'm at a healthcare insurance provider, a managed care business, and there are several teams already using, Azure modules and apps and Power BI. I'm more on like the data science side, so I don't really touch those tools too often. So I'm a bit in the dark in terms of their capabilities. But one thing I do want to research more, it's our integrations that might make the Power BI dashboards faster. This is something, again, I haven't researched at all, but I didn't know if you're using any kind of like R backend for, powering sort of the Power BI visuals.
Yeah, great question. No, I don't know of any instances of that. The back end piece, the data for our Power BI are from, basically, Azure. So we use Data Factory or SQL or something. So data transformations, data storage, and then the Power BI dashboards are just built on top of that. And so we use R for, the way we think of it as, so the whole process of data is there's source systems, then they get loaded into the data lake in its raw format, it's transformed, then it's governed, it becomes our data source. And I think of everything that we do in data science as downstream of that curated, governed data. And so the apps that we build using Posit are, downstream of that, production data. And the Power BI dashboards are also downstream of that production data, but we don't have Posit in the middle. So we don't necessarily use Posit as a data engineering platform to create the data in its format. I think in general we would prefer to have the data engineering steps be done within kind of Azure Data Factory, all the SQL and all that, the massaging, curating the data to happen there, and have the data ready for consumption, downstream of that. In general.
No, that makes sense. Thank you.
The most upvoted question on Slido is, how do you decide/design requirements for DS, which I'm assuming is data science, versus DA, which I'm assuming is data analysis, other than their academic background?
Great question. So we have created just last year and launched what we have as the career framework, career progression framework. And this came out after I had designed the org. So let me kind of give both of those and how they come together. So when I first designed the org, the idea was that we wanted to hire people that can be really good at manipulating data, that can create visuals, create dashboards, that can communicate well with the business, but don't necessarily have an advanced degree in data science. So, analytics is a spectrum. There's this whole spectrum continuum between someone who, on one end is, competent and familiar with data analytics tools and capabilities, but not necessarily, you don't have, years of math, background and all the math that's underneath it. Whereas someone who has an advanced degree in analytics, multiple years of grad school, has, all the mathematical foundations behind it and really knows it very well. And, there's all the space in between. And so we felt like there was a lot of value in having, both ends of that spectrum. And so the design was to have some data analysts who have, bachelor's degrees. And so the answer to the question is probably degree being kind of the most strong indicator of what a data analyst would be. But basically, these are people that don't want to necessarily build models. They want to, they're interested in data engineering, they're interested in data visuals, they're interested in, solving those problems kind of more in a descriptive way, and aren't as interested in kind of machine learning or AI. Okay, we have people that are like that, and those are our key, data analysts, and they're a smaller group. We have a much bigger group of data scientists, and data scientists are those that have those advanced degrees in data science, statistics, etc. and then they really want to focus on building the models and refining those models, ML ops, all those kinds of processes. And so we have both those. Now, in late last year, all of ZTD, or Zoetic Tech and Digital, rolled out a career progression framework where we connected those together. And so data analysts that wanted to progress to be a data scientist would have that opportunity. It may mean that they have many more years of experience, or may mean they get a master's degree along the way. And we're a company that supports our team members in furthering their education. And so we would help them along the way to get further education. And so they would have an opportunity then to progress and to go higher levels in the company in terms of being an individual contributor within data science. So hope that answered the question. We both are highly valued and needed, used for different parts of the whole puzzle.
Yeah. Abdullah, I see you have your hand raised. Maybe.
Hello.
Yep.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, thank you so much for this interesting topic. So just I have some question, because just now you are talking about the background. Actually, my background in statistics. Recently, I finished my PhD in applied on the computation statistics. So in my journey when I did my PhD, I took a lot of coding for the R, especially for the R coding. So and that's so from that day. So I am really interested to just involve myself in the data science area. But still I don't know the way, because okay, for me, I have knowledge for the statistics, but I think the coding is not much, because it's just for R for me. Is it so? What is your advice for my okay?
Yeah, and the landscape has drastically changed from when I was a grad student 20 years ago. So when I was a grad student, I did most of my dissertation research in SAS, but I also used R. So I'm not, hopefully not offending any of the R people here, but yeah, so I did it in both. And since then, Python has become very popular, and more new technologies keep coming out. So I don't know if I can fully answer your question, other than say that getting real job experience and then learning new skills along the way. So job experience along with constantly learning is really the best way to continue to advance yourself in your career. There's the technology landscape is constantly evolving. There's new things coming out all the time. So trying to stay on top of those and learn those new skills, as well as just getting real world experience. And being in grad school, is one thing. Getting out and doing an internship, or getting a real job where you're solving real problems, that's where the rubber hits the road, in my experience.
Thanks.
Yep. So I see a couple of questions in the chat here. So Oscar says, from a leadership perspective, what strategy or sources do you use to try to anticipate where data science analytics world will be going next? Or do you follow where we're at? Okay. Yeah. Oh boy.
You can almost cobble in the next question about
yeah, ChatGPT. So yeah, ask ChatGPT, right? What's the next big thing? So I get a couple daily emails that come in from, I think one is a CIO journal, which has some technology headlines. So I try to keep up with some of the technology trends and companies, what they're doing. So I'd say LinkedIn. Just try to stay plugged in, whatever source you want, stay plugged into those kind of feeds. It doesn't take long to read some highlights and some, the title of the article or just brief summaries. You can get through those pretty quickly according to your interests. So I would say, there's some people that are real forward thinkers. I would also say that some of the most forward thinkers are really in the areas of like joint ventures or startup areas. These people that are thinking about new business opportunities, they're seeing things, they're seeing trends, and they're putting lots and lots of money to it. Whenever you put your money where your mouth is, that to me says, okay, there's something there that we should pay attention to. And so there's a few, kind of forward thinkers out there that I've come across that are in the kind of early stage investing space. A lot of them from California that are thinking far ahead of where a lot of us are in terms of these technologies and where they're going. And so some of these people saw ChatGPT coming well in advance. They knew that this type of tsunami would come, and they're already starting to create startups that would kind of ride the wave kind of early on. So question, you must have been asked about how ChatGPT, okay. So yeah, the whole generative AI space has been an absolute tsunami of interest that has come from Kristen Peck, from WAFA, all the senior leaders to us as an analytics team to try to tackle. And we were able to onboard some of the generative AI tools using our Azure and Microsoft partnership. And we're starting to test those out. We're very early stages in that. I attended a call last month with probably 50 or so CIOs from various companies. And we're not too far behind. There's some companies that are farther ahead in their generative AI use cases and so forth. But what we're doing is we're kicking the tires on the tools, testing them out, and we have a couple use case areas that we're going to start to dive into here shortly in terms of how these generative AI tools can be used within the Zoetis firewall. That's one thing that's really important. The public version, just word of caution for all you out there, never put company proprietary information or customer information into the public ChatGPT. We've already seen some headlines of some bad actors that have done that and the consequences of that. And so we've onboarded these tools within our Zoetis firewall, so it's all privatized, and any internal data that we use stays within the internal network. And so that's the type of experimentation and use cases, proof of concepts that we're going to tend to work on next year.
There's a really fitting question that got upvoted in Slido that I think is a good one for the top of the hour as we conclude. And it's essentially, if I can summarize, Zoetis and you and your team sound awesome. How can they get hired?
Oh yeah, there you go. Well, hey, I would say that connect with me on LinkedIn. I like to connect with as many people as possible. Stay connected that way. Constantly search the job board. So we had this initial hiring wave that happened when I joined. Catalina is one of those hires. Thank you, Catalina, for joining Zoetis. She's a rock star. And so we're always looking for great talent out there. And so I was just saying, let's stay connected. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to connect. There's jobs that are posted. I would say there are some jobs, not necessarily my team, but there are other data science teams within Zoetis that I know have been hiring. So definitely check the job listings within careers.zoetis.com.
Yeah. Can I just poke at that a little bit? What are some like soft skills or sort of team skills that you look at in candidates?
Yeah. So I think of it in terms of a couple different dimensions. One is the analytics skills dimension, and that's just kind of that's table stakes. You have to be able to talk the talk, walk the walk. You have to be able to code. You have to be able to do the stuff. And so, your technical expertise is an absolute must-have. The next dimension, I would say, is more the interpersonal side. So it's being able to communicate, being able to understand how to best, communicate with others, how to work with others that don't have a technical background. So there's a lot around the communication dimension. There's really a third dimension in my mind, which is more of business understanding, business acumen. Now, I hire people. I don't expect them to have any animal health background. I didn't have any animal health background, but we do anticipate that people will take the time to learn it and try to, expand. And what are the company products? How do we make money? Who are our customers? What are their needs? And to really understand the business side of it, because that's, at the end of the day, that's what we're here for, is to help our customers, help our company be successful. So 3 things: analytics dimension. I have to have, kind of a baseline level of competency, communication, soft skills, being able to understand and communicate well, and then having the business acumen to go with that.
Awesome. And we're at the top of the hour. So We always ask, how can people get in contact with you? I think you already said LinkedIn, but also any parting thoughts or things you're super jazzed about, talking
Yeah.
about, round out?
So my boss and I got interviewed by Forbes magazine just recently, and so if you look on May 2nd, you can see an article there on Zoetis. So if you just actually Google my name, JD Williams Zoetis, it'll show up on one of the things there. But it's on Forbes. I encourage you to go and read the article to talk about what we're doing in terms of analytics and data science within Zoetis. So thank you all. Appreciate the opportunity. Sorry I wasn't here about a month ago. COVID's nasty. Don't recommend it for anybody. Stay away from COVID.
Awesome. Well, thank you, JD. Thank you everyone who joined and participated. We'll be here next week, same time, same place. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you all.